Gary Golding is a pretty unique guy. He's a character. He calls himself the Tarzan of Los Angeles and has appeared in 12 episodes of Discovery Channel's Naked and Afraid XL and 3 episodes of Naked and Afraid in 2018 and 2019, where he's seen eating the craziest things and being larger than life. However, at his core, he loves nature and wants others to love and protect nature as he does through his educational programs and guided nature tours around LA. The problem is that in a world with so many different people and backgrounds, a message that is delivered in a way that seems forceful or condescending will not work on everyone. We had a prior conversation where it led in that direction, but I still like the idea of the message that he had tattooed on his back for all the world to see on a major broadcast television show: consume as little as possible. So I had another conversation with him about some of the projects that he does to help promote it.
I was always like this little barefooted jungle boy who had a fantasy, but in the city, right? And fast forward, this girl I hang out with, in my life, I start walking her through the streets of like Hermosa Beach and showing her all the edible plants and medicinal plants we're surrounded by because I was taking survival courses, and feeding them to her and eating them, like rose hips, rose petals, just everything. The plants we're surrounded by, right? And so she was just fascinated by this. And so then we don't see each other and we used to party together and all this stuff. And so then 15 years passes, I don't hear from her. I befriend her on like Facebook, and I start saving bees. I start getting into saving bees and humanely rescuing bees from people's houses and giving them to other people or putting them on my roof, right? Mm-hmm. And then she became a teacher in that time. So she's a teacher, right? So she actually says, "Hey, Gary, will you..." And now, mind you, I was hyper aggressive on Facebook in sort of the way that I was talking the last little try we did at this. Mm-hmm. Hyper aggressive, very viciously aggressive, very mean about the environment to people that just should know, right? And that factors in too. So she sees me saving bees, and she says, "Will you come to the school I teach at and tell the children about bees?" And because bees are the big celebrity in the environmental world. And the same way celebrity matters in the acting world, people will put quotes around your words, even if you're an idiot. So bees are now the celebrity in the environmental world. Everybody's talking about the bees. And so she wants me to come to the school and teach about the bees. And I go, sure. And so I show up for free, and I volunteer, and I just tell the kids all about bees, and I bring live bees and honeycomb, and they get to taste honey right off the comb, and I was very charismatic. And then her bosses were there, the other teachers were there, and this woman that is now instrumental in getting me in this school. And they're like, wow, like I'm really good with kids. So they were super impressed, and they were like, man, he's good with kids, and he's super knowledgeable. And a lot of my knowledge is philosophies that I developed on my own that nobody taught me, where it's sort of like, wow, I never would have thought of that. It's like, well, yeah, because no one taught me that. I that's my personal development philosophically through personal experience, right? So what happens is they asked me, hey, come back again. And then one day, I'll never forget, this really blew me away. They had me come and teach the kids wild edibles on the elementary school campus, and walk them around and let them eat weeds with me, which put in the wrong hands can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, look at this trust I have. And so what happens is a teacher calls in sick for this company I work for, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? And they saw how good I was with kids. They saw me doing this bee presentation and my knowledge. And I just happened to be right next to this girl going, well, oh man, what are we going to do about who's going to replace her? It's like last minute. And I chimed in next to this girl. I said, I could teach those kids out there. And then she looks at me and goes, can you? Wait. And I said, yeah. And so I said, okay. And then after that, I just accidentally fell into teaching. It was a pure fluke, right?
Wow.
And so now here's where it factors into me grabbing bees off of bushes and getting stung and let them loose in class. Well, sometimes these bee presentations were taken into the classroom, and I would get stung by the bees, and I would take the stinger out in front of the kids. But that was a lesson in how to remove a bee sting on your own without parents around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it had a practical use. Then I would let the kids hold the bees because they had no stinger and actually get to hold a live bee. And then sometimes they would fly off and fly around, and the kids would be screaming. Now here I am, an adult, kids screaming with bees flying around a classroom that I got stung with. Now you put that together, I'm literally getting paid to do exactly what I did for mischief as a 9-year-old. Look at this. The kids were screaming. There was a little girl. Now you gotta mind you, these classes are incredibly dramatic. There was a little girl crying in the corner, terrified of bees. The other 2 little girls consoling her and saying, "It's okay. It won't do anything." Passing knowledge on to her, saying, "The stinger's gone. It can't sting again." And I'm going, wow. And the class is on fire. They're never gonna forget this class, right? And it clicked, and I was like, look at this. I'm literally getting paid to do what I did for mischief. Literally. Like, you couldn't be more literal. But only passing on knowledge while I'm doing it. And so it was, so it was very organic, right? And so what happened is I used to harvest pine pollen off the trees, and I would drink it because it's a superfood, and I would make pancakes out of it. And I invented my own pancake recipe out of the pine pollen because I knew the natives would make cakes with acorns and pollen. So I said, I'm just going to make pancakes. And then this lady had me on her cooking show, but then what I started doing is I started painting the kids' face. I'd bring the pine pollen to class, and I would paint their faces with yellow stripes and make them warriors. I was first just showing them the pollen one day, and I just did it organically. I said, look, because I have a slideshow, and there was a bee with pollen all over it, and I would throw the pollen all over my face, and I'd go, see, like this. I'm like a big bee. And then it dawned on me. I just came up with it. I said, I need you guys to be my little bee warriors. And then I said, who wants to be a warrior? And these little kids spoke up, and they came up front, and I painted their faces for the first time ever. And after that, I just started doing it all the time, and I labeled it Bee Warriors Presentation. And I paint their faces with pine pollen, and they dig it, and because they run around the playground with their stripes on their face. And it was purely organic, and it developed into something off of me just winging it, being creative in the moment, and then it developed completely naturally through life, just like that. Basically, everything is sort of one big accident, just that follows the heart.
You know what? And it's funny because it sounds like you're truly living up to your nickname that you have in Los Angeles, the Tarzan of Los Angeles.
Well, that really, see, what really solidifies that is they'll try to talk, some people will corny, laugh at it, whatever. But or I don't look like Tarzan. Well, I don't, because this is the Los Angeles version. You know what I mean? It's like I try to say, like, there's barbers where I live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not like out in the jungle. And so anyways, the Tarzan of Los Angeles, if you really piece it together, where it comes into play is, I got medals. I'm a decorated hero for saving a human life in the ocean of California. So in nature, I saved a 19-year-old Muslim kid in the ocean one day and brought him back to consciousness and saved his life. So now that's in nature, right? Mm-hmm. Then here I am with children around me, teaching children, and I work for a nonprofit that saves animals. And On top of it, then all of a sudden my life takes this turn where I get paid to go live off the land naked in Brazil, Africa, Belize, in all these foreign countries, and literally run from elephants and do all this stuff. And I actually kicked butt at it, right? Mm-hmm. So it gets to the point there where it's like, and then if you see what I do on my time, on my free time, you know, with whales and out there in nature. And so it's like, it's kind of like, now it's solidified. You can't really argue. There is, you know, I've seen other guys call themselves Tarzan, the real Tarzan, and they do parkour and hang from streetlights. And I'm like, no, Tarzan does more than like parkour and swing from stuff. You know, like, and I literally teach children, save human life, feed the homeless from trash dumpsters, live off the land naked around the world. Like, it's so dynamic and so multifaceted that it encompasses what I imagine Tarzan to be.
He went about everything in a different way, but towards the end of the discussion he started to get me thinking about what we consume and why we consume it. If something was so damaging to the environment but only served a few passing moments of ease and happiness, should we consume it? On one of my longer hikes, I saw a silver metallic object caught on some branches deep into a state park that was miles away from any other people outside of my own group. It was tangled up. It was a balloon, and I saw a lot of other pieces of trash strewn about the trail, and it looked pretty disgusting. It ruined that portion of the hike that I took to gather some of the trash. Had people just thought about what they were doing and carried the trash out with them, or took less, or never sent off a balloon into the middle of nowhere, all that wouldn't have been there. You mentioned that you're normally on the show Naked and Afraid, and that you're featured there as a wilderness survivalist, but you say that you were on that show for another reason, or you saw that there was an opportunity by going on that show to sort of spread a certain message. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the thing is I make very clear that I'm only on the show for one reason and one reason only. All my interviews with them, everything, to the world. I mean, I'm only there for one reason, and I want to drive that home. I can't emphasize that enough. One reason only, and it's the most powerful sentence known to all humanity, is to carry a message to the world, because I've managed to infiltrate mainstream media, and the message is consume as little as possible, which is also the Be Warrior motto that I teach the children. Because if every human being did that action, that's not a belief. This is not an opinion. It's not a belief. It's an actual action. Then the world would be cleaner by tomorrow if we all did that action today.
And you're saying that's just anything, like anything to sort of bring down your consumption of the world, to sort of reduce before you reuse and recycle.
Yes, anything that you touch. It sort of cuts out, like anytime there's a debate about the environment, and then you'll have vegans and vegetarians think that they have some sort of higher grip than everybody else, that they're doing the actual best thing that you can do. And there's a lot of debate about that. And so if there is any debate, I simply say, hey, it's actually not meat, my friend. It's every single thing you touch. And so let's just cut out any debate and just attach this to everything and allow people their freedom. So if you want to eat some meat, just do it as little as possible. Now, the one thing I do attack, though, where I don't allow leniency on, is jewelry, balloons, and fireworks, specifically gold and diamonds, and precious metals, because the mining and the fact that it's just the fact that they're shiny, that's it. You simply stare at them. I call that the evil trinity of tradition, because they're attached to love and celebration of love for a person, a country, a mother, balloons, your child, and they're considered to be a part of success and beauty, when actually they devour the planet and simply for something to stare at and make us smile for a moment and go, oh. So I kind of, when it comes to those three things, I kind of don't cut people slack, because they don't need a balloon to communicate across the country to their mom, or get a phone call as a doctor to go save someone's life like they do a cell phone, or to go pick up the kids from school and transfer them around and live life. They don't need a ring like they do a car. And, you know, to celebrate the nation and your love for this nation, you could do it by just making it a better place, and you don't have to light off fireworks to show that you love the nation and pollute the crap out of it on a particular day. So these are just simply primitive things. The same reason a fishing lure is shiny, because it attracts fish. The same way an apple becomes bright and shiny is the same concept. If you really break down what happens with jewelry, balloons, and fireworks, it's simply because it's attractive to us mentally, and we stare at it and we go, oh, and it really has no nutritional or positive function on Earth at all.
What are those baby steps that you can do right now, other than the ones that you mentioned just recently? What are the other steps that they can do today?
Well, you know, that's cool. I love that question. The steps that can be done tonight and now are, like, say, for example, geez, you know, it's so funny because it's an interesting question. Like, people would think, like, I come off to you like some aggressive salesman, like I'm trying to sell you something, but I'm actually trying to make you not buy anything. Like, I'm literally trying to make you not spend your money. And so this is why I let people know, this is why I go after the consumer. It's so funny to watch the consumer. You have so many people blaming capitalism and the corporations, who simply react to the large population of consumers. And it's that whole concept of, hey, while you're pointing your finger, blame you. You, the consumer, are the corporation, by the way. You're driving it. So basically, if you don't want a bottled water company to drain Lake Superior, don't buy bottled water, because they will respond to you. Because the bottom line of any corporation and to their stockholders is only profit. That's like what they can only care about is profit. And so if you make it not profitable, meaning you and me, for them to be, you don't buy it anymore, they're going to have to adapt and adjust it. You actually steer the corporations. It's kind of like the gut bacteria, the probiotics in the human body. It turns out they're finding that those little bacteria are the captain of the ship. Well, stop pointing your fingers at the corporations. You become an activist in every tiny little way. That if you have billions of us on the planet thinking exactly the same, the balloon companies will go out of business. The bottled water companies will. And there'll just be enough around just to sort of sustain, you know, bottled water on a level that maybe is needed, to where if you got to get it to poor people in a certain location for disasters, then that's when it factors in. It'll be like, okay, bottled water is now functioning as a positive thing on Earth, and not just a convenience that you walk into a store for anytime you feel like some water.
I really want to thank you for sharing that today on this podcast. And yeah.
Cool. Well, then you have a good night, okay? And
yeah, you too.
Keep kicking butt.
Thanks. You too. Thanks for listening to the Jazzed About Stuff podcast, the show where I talk about all things related to nature and the environment. Head to the show notes to discover more info on the Tarzan of Los Angeles and what he's up to. And remember that no matter what you do, you should first think globally and act locally. Consider the health of the entire planet while taking action in your own communities, whether it be dedicated to balloons, jewelry, and fireworks, or consuming little to no meat.